Good morning. Welcome back to Daybreak on this 3rd day of March 2025. I have in studio Jen Kagere. She's the woman representative for Laikipia County. Good morning.
Good morning, Sam.
Hitas Makhanu is an advocate of the High Court. Good morning.
Good morning, Sam.
It's been a while.
It's been a while, but we've been around.
Yeah.
Just watching how this administration is fumbling with issues.
Fumbling?
Yes.
Women's and violence.
It's a fact. It's a fact. We are suffering as Kenyans.
Oh, yeah?
Even advocates have no work.
Oh.
A lot of them are being made fun of. That we sit a lot nowadays at Jivanji. There's no work. We're just sitting and gazing. We now belong to the Lizards Club, you know, the basking club. There's no work.
We'll talk about that shortly. After, did I say good morning? What was your answer?
You did.
His answer was long.
Senator Hilary Sigei, good morning.
Good morning, Sam.
It's been a couple of weeks.
It's been a couple of weeks, though.
Yeah.
But I'm happy to be here.
I hear you were in, you had traveled, is it overseas or over rivers?
No, just across the neighborhood here in Namibia.
Okay, how was it there?
It's great. It was great. I had accompanied the Deputy President during the state burial of the founding father of, they call him the founding father of the Namibia nation, Sam Nujoma.
Sure.
Who was the first president and one of the freedom fighters. It was quite an experience. We had 2 bilaterals after the event, that is on Saturday afternoon and yesterday in the morning before we came.
Yep.
And we've got a lot to learn even from such young democracies like Namibia. And yes, it was quite an informative session.
So you'll be sharing with us some lessons.
Given an opportunity, definitely I will share with you and Kenyans the kind of patriotism that we should emulate sometimes also from such young nations like Namibia.
What do you mean patriotism?
The first president, Sam Nujoma, is one of the greatest heroes that they refer to.
Right.
And he's the person who led them to independence. And one of the things that I learned, there's a gentleman called General Opande, who is a Kenyan, who is more respected and known in Namibia than Kenya. I didn't know him until when it was announced in that State of the Nation address that General Opande is here. He was in the high tables. He was actually recognized ahead of the other presidents. We had 4 presidents who were there. Then, of course, now the patriotism aspect comes from the respect that they give to their heroes, their country, and the young democracy that we're in. It's a small country, it's a big country of a very small population.
Right.
Of 3 million.
You said the State of the Nation address. You mean that or state funeral?
The state funeral. The state funeral, yes.
All right. And we'll be talking about that after here. But this morning, red flags in Ruto's housing projects is the headline on the Daily Nation. They're saying that only 1 in 559 are saving at Bomayango platform to own the affordable houses. The government has entered into 49.5 billion shilling affordable housing contracts on parcels of land with missing title deeds. So the question they're raising is how Kenyans buying houses from the projects will get sectional titles to own the units in absence of original titles at a time when the affordable housing program continues to operate in an opaque regulatory environment. That's according to the Daily Nation. Are beneficiaries risking their hard-earned cash? That's another question they're raising. There on the front page of the Standard, you find co-president Raila. A political realignment is taking shape as ODM leader Raila Odinga nears a deal with President William Ruto. The agreement, modeled after past power-sharing pacts, could see Raila assume an non-executive prime minister role. And sources say the plans are underway to prepare Harambee House, traditionally the seat of the presidency, for him. How true is that, Senator Sigei?
That headline is one of those sensational headlines, of course. I mean, to the extent that we are already talking about an office in Harambee House, a replica of the Prime Minister's office. We know very well the structure of the Kenyan government under the Constitution. And therefore, we are all aware that there is the judiciary, executive, and legislature. Under the executive, it's a presidency. We actually have, as at now, a sitting prime cabinet secretary, because of the dictates of the Constitution. So it is one of those speculations that, of course, the media is doing, so that either it it becomes a very popular headline for it to sell, or it is a speculative headline so that it sort of triggers a conversation on it and
what
get
is
responses.
What's going on?
We have a broad-based government that has incorporated those who are like-minded leaders and Kenyans that over time, of course, for the last couple of months, we have been leading the country under. So it's a continuation of the broad-based government. As to whether or not we headed to that direction, the law is still there. We haven't changed. We have not amended. We are not about to. So
okay, we will get to that conversation. I can see, Wakili Makhanu, you have so much to say. Just briefly, do you agree with that headline on the Standard?
It would be true, because we have Mudavadi holding the position of Prime Cabinet Secretary. There was no amendment to the Constitution, and he holds that office.
Yeah.
Yet we know in the Constitution and the structure of government in Kenya, there is no such position as Prime Cabinet Secretary. So he has that position.
So you can actually create an executive prime minister role?
They created the position of Prime Cabinet Secretary, yet it is not in the Constitution. Anything is possible in this government for purposes of convenience.
Okay.
So I'm not surprised.
Okay. Do you agree, Mheshimiwa Kagere?
Sam, for me, I would want to take you back to 2019 when we had the BBI initiative. And some, I'm beginning to think, as media, you need to hold us back with history. Because I remember when we had the BBI initiative, some of the issues that came up was winner takes it all, and how we were going to ensure that power is going to be shared in this country. Of course, the BBI initiative was halted by the courts, I think, in May 2021 or something like that, and we stopped at that. But I remember the current president at Boma standing and asking, is BBI going to resolve the issue of winner takes it all? Certainly, 2022 elections happened, and we all went to the ballot and we saw the results. If the truth would be told, His Excellency Dr. William Samoei Ruto literally beat Right Honorable Raila Odinga by 70,000 votes, if you'd go by the exact figures that assured us of the win. And if you go into the details. So that tells you, Sam, as a president, His Excellency Dr. William Samoei Ruto has almost half the population supported of voters supported him, and half of the population of voters did not support him. So that means, how do you bring these people on board and they still have their leader? Of course, initially, when we were talking about the BBI, and which has also resulted into the NADCO talks, we are trying to see how do we keep this leader, who has half his population, believing he was the person supposed to be the president, how do we keep him part of government and to keep government in check? And that is where the issue of having the office of the leader of official opposition comes in. So I believe, in fact, in the course of this week, we should start debating the NADCO report. And these are some of the issues that are going to be handled. Some I keep saying as Kenyans.
So you don't agree with that headline about a non-executive prime minister's position?
Some I agree and I don't agree. Reason being, as Kenyans, we must start telling ourselves the truth. For this country to progress, we must agree that we have to do something about balancing power in this country. And I'll give you a very good example, Sam. In 2017, I was an entrepreneur. In fact, let me say I was an entrepreneur from the year 2007. We had the 2017 elections. 2 years before the 2017 elections, there was full-blown campaign in this country. 2017 elections came. In August, they were held and ended. President Uhuru Kenyatta was declared the winner. Again, we had a rerun that came, I think, in sometime in October. Right Honorable Raila Odinga pulled out from that election. Then we had the president being sworn in on November end of that year. Then come March the following year, that is 2018, that's when we had the Right Honorable Raila Odinga and Uhuru Kenyatta have a handshake. Some have given you a chronology of something that sounds very simple. But remember, those are 4 years of an entrepreneur's business wasted in the events of campaigns. Those are 4 years of uncertainty in a country where investors do not want to come in. Those are 4 years of unemployment and a country's economy actually weakening. So my question here comes today. We are back to the same cycle. So you imagine an entrepreneur who now had settled back into their business in 2022. We are back to last year. We saw what we saw. 2023, we saw what we saw. We are now headed to campaign starting again come next year. So some as a country, when are we going to sit and tell ourselves the truth that we need to end an election? If the election is held in August 2027, let businesses resume by the following month, and wait for another cycle to come 5 years later.
Okay.
But as a country, we are running elections and being in political mode for the remaining 5 years, which creates...
So who has put us there?
We must have the conversation as a country,
no,
because it's our democracy. It is our democracy that has gotten us here. Because everybody...
How do you blame a democracy? I mean, a democracy is managed by people.
Some, I keep saying one thing, and we must start telling each other the truth. We have the 2010 Constitution, a constitution that gave us so many rights, and we all supported it. I remember back then many said, if Raila has read it, I have read it. Others said, if the late His Excellency Kibaki has read it,
who has
they have
put us in that election mood?
That is what I'm saying, Sam. The Constitution has given a right to everything, including right to association. If Right Honorable Raila Odinga's supporters, who are maybe 6 million, decide they want to convert somewhere and walk on the streets, they have been given that right. But how do we ensure that we enshrine it somewhere where their grievances can be heard without us having to destabilize the country? How do we enshrine it somewhere where we can have a leader who speaks on behalf of all these people and is felt to be part of the government? That is where the conversation should be.
Interesting. And Senator of Murang'a County, Senator John Nyoto, now joins us in studio. Good morning, Senator.
Good morning, Sam.
We're just getting started, and I want us to listen to what the Catholic bishops had to say about the situation in the country in terms of the politics, as well as the activities that we've been seeing. You may have seen the president was at the coast last week up until Friday for what he termed development tour, but while at it, there were a bit of sound bites that we had that are quite political. We've also been seeing the so-called opposition organizing and reorganizing, strategizing on how to approach the 2027 general election. Let's hear what the bishops had to say about early campaigns.
This early onset of political campaigns diverts critical attention from national development, shifting focus to the spectacle of election campaigns. The fervor generated by political rallies creates an artificial euphoria that obscures substantive political debates, elevating political temperatures. This premature election fever undermines the very spirit of the democratic process, as a government is expected to concentrate on governance and implementation until the officially designated campaigning period is announced.
And Senator, reflecting on what the Standard is saying, that plans are underway to prepare Harambee House, traditionally the seat of the presidency, to create a position of an executive prime minister, and what the bishops are calling out as early campaigns. I mean, what then do we do? Because it is the reality that we live in at the moment. How do you resolve it?
Thank you, Sam. And if you may allow me to comment on what my co-panelists had commented on. Some, I have all the reason to believe what the Standard has on its headline, that Raila is just about to be made co-president. And I even dare to say that should this arrangement come to pass, Raila will not just be a co-president, but he'll be more powerful than President Ruto in that particular arrangement. And why do I say that? I say that some because as we speak, as things stand now, President Ruto has no other plan other than hanging on Raila Amolo Odinga. And so whatever Raila asks, he will get it from William Ruto. And if you allow me again, my friend, Honorable Jane Kagiri, has, of course, explained why we need to, to co-opt Raila Amolo Odinga into government, and whatever arrangement may be under the NADCOL, recommendations. And of course, our argument is true that we need to be inclusive in government, and that Raila controls or had, a total vote that was almost half of the total vote cast in 2022. But what maybe Honorable Jane did not say is, if Raila is to be co-opted into government because he controls about half of the country, I mean, President Ruto, was able to garner about 7.2 million, with a difference of 200,000. Then the other question then should be, what about those that voted for William Ruto and who are not supporting him now? Because if you are saying you want to co-opt Raila into government because he has a following of over half of the country, then what do you do with those like Rigathi Gachagua, who also control a big chunk of the vote that President Ruto got? And so I think if we were to get into this particular conversation, then we should look at it in a much deeper way. Yeah. Because as we speak, President Ruto does not have the support of the 7.2 million Kenyans that voted for him.
How do you determine that?
Of course, I mean, we have not done a vote, but of course we know where he got his vote, and we know, of course, what people are saying in the regions that, you know, President Ruto was voted in. I mean, if opinion polls were to be held, and I mean, maybe that has not been held, but of course, there has been a lot of changes, which if we were to do this, when probably would need an opinion poll to see who supports who before we start now, you know, before we decide who is supposed to be co-opted into government, depending on their support. For the Catholic bishops, who spoke yesterday about early campaigns. And again, and I'm not hammering, Jane Kagirishi is my friend. Again, he has not been able to answer your question. These early campaigns, who started these, where are these early campaigns coming from? And what people may not want to say, especially people who support the government, is that these early campaigns have started with the president himself. And that is what you may not hear from however much you pester from those that support the president. And so I think the Catholic bishops are right, and I don't think they're doing politics. The other thing I would want to say is that the particular bishop that read that statement, had it been Archbishop Anthony Moheria, then everybody, especially on the side of the president, would start saying this tribalism is because, Senator, so we are happy when it is said by somebody who is not from the region.
There. This was a statement of the Kenya Conference of Catholic Bishops, the KCCB themselves. Yes. And usually they will read portions by portion, each bishop getting a moment, or a few bishops getting a moment to read a statement. It's not a personal statement, it's for the entire conference.
Agreed.
Let's listen to what Raila Odinga has been telling the people in as far as the conversations, the consultations that he's been holding since that meeting in State House, Mombasa on Monday.
Going to betray our people in whatever we do. What we do must be something that is done in the best interest of the people of Kenya. I've listened very carefully to views that have been expressed by those who are here. And I can say that these people have given me a carte blanche. That is a blank check. I can write an amount on it. They have said that they have faith in what you're going to do, and that they will support what you do because they know that it's going to be in the interest of our people.
So he's not going to betray the people. And there's something important that you also find on the Standard. I arrived in Mombasa last week from Dubai and met President William Ruto and his people at State House, where they gave me an agreement to sign touching on several issues. I told them I could not sign before consulting the party members. And he has been holding those meetings. Let's listen to what the president has been saying to people that are concerned with the unity with Raila Odinga.
Hata kama hii serikali tulipata, lakini nimesema tunapanua hii serikali iwe ile broad based ya mapana na marefu ili kuwajumuisha Wakenya wote, ndio tuungane, nguvu zetu ziwe pamoja.
So Senator Sigei, help me here. What is this tuungane? What is this the political class keeps speaking about? Unaunganisha nani?
Tuungane pamoja kama wa Kenya is a very simple, straightforward meaning Kiswahili word.
Yep.
I think the question would be the context of that kuungana in itself. And remember, one of the most critical things that Kenya Kwanza did in its manifesto, by the way, and it's a continuation of that desire to implement what was in the manifesto, is the unity of the country. The unfortunate thing, as I earlier on said, is that whenever now we say tuungane pamoja, you listen to my colleague Senator Nyutu. He does what we call in law approbation and reprobation. He speaks of one thing on one side of his mouth, another thing on the other side of his mouth. In the context of this kuungana, is the broad-based government that we have all been talking about.
That's what I'm asking. Ni nani hawa wanaunganishwa?
Now, very simple. We have a president, we have a government, we have the opposition, we have Kenyans. Simply put, we are saying, let us unite Kenyans.
When did they split up?
The sidelines of that unity is the conversation about the difference in our political alignments. When did it beat us? Remember, we are barely 2 years into an election, rather from an election. And in that election, we had two camps, Kenya Kwanza, Azimio. One won the elections and formed the government. The other one did not win the elections and formed the opposition.
Is there a problem in that?
When we talk about, no, of course not. So when we talk about uniting the country, and in the context of having Raila, because I believe this is where the question is coming from, even Raila himself says, we are doing this in the best interest of the country. And one of the things, Sam, that we don't normally do, which we must do, by the way, very intentional, and if it were not for the fact that the political class is normally seen when they speak in a political sphere, we definitely have got to have a real conversation where Kenyans are told, look, this is what we plan to do, this is what we have done, and this is what we have achieved, this is what we are yet to achieve. And, by the way, it's very important to accept criticism. So that is one of the things that we are saying.
Please answer my simple question. Kenya Kwanza won the election in August 2022.
Yes.
Azimio came in second.
Yes.
So ordinarily there would be the opposition or minority. Never mind, even minority is an issue of determination at the National Assembly. But now the Speaker has once again ruled that Kenya Kwanza is majority.
It's a matter that's now active in court.
I'm not asking a question about that. What I'm asking is, so when you keep saying that we're uniting because we had two different camps, which you already admit, there's no problem in the first place to have different ideologies and running on two different political parties. So what is this clarion call to unite? Who are you uniting? Is it the politicians or is it Kenyans? And if it's Kenyans, in what exactly for?
Let me tell you, politicians are united. My good friend Nyutu will speak against me and against the Kenya Kwanza government, and we will comfortably walk here and shake hands and smile and talk about serious issues affecting country at large. When he does that, we are united. We are telling you and we are telling Kenyans that for all that is supposed to help us as Kenya to grow, to develop, and to perform as a government on the promises we've made, we need everyone else to support the rallying code. We do not. Everyone else in this case is all the Kenyans and all the politicians, both in or outside government.
Surely, you are an advocate of the High Court.
Yes.
Is it even possible that you have everyone supporting what the government is talking about?
It's not possible.
So why is it even...
We are saying some that, I mean, I'm also trying to simply put and say, there is no harm to have an opposition, and there is no harm to have people criticizing a government. But there is every need to say, let us all forge ahead in one common accord as to the plans that a government of the day is trying to perform
and you need
on the promises of the people of Kenya. But of course, everyone else, including even the team...
why do you need Raila Odinga to support that?
Number one, for instance, Sam, when we are in Parliament, for a bill to pass, I need to have a certain number. For example, if it's a county-affecting issue, I must garner 24 plus votes, which
but
is
you already
a
have majority in the House, don't you?
We do have.
And?
I do not necessarily need 24. I need everyone to speak to that issue so that when I go back down to my county on a weekend, I'm speaking to a program that though I'm getting criticisms across the board, people can still relate to it.
That's what I'm asking you. Kenya Kwanza has majority.
Allow me to finish, because I'm trying to answer your question. I am saying I don't need 24 votes, for example, at any given time, if I can get more than 24. What I want is, I want everyone else. If I am talking about, for example, public fundraising appeals bill, when I go to Bomet, I want to speak to it for the people of Bomet to understand what such a bill is all about. I equally want to have my colleague who is on the opposition, but because he wants to speak to an issue that is affecting his people, whether they're in government or not, they must also positively speak to it. And if it's about criticizing, criticize it in a manner that enhances the support for such a program. That is basically what we're trying to say. And so don't make it complex, because you want to make it complex merely because you're bringing on board.
I'm trying to simplify it.
You're bringing on board
let's look at it in simple
the
terms.
political differences.
Sorry, Senator, I really want to hear what Wakili Makhanu has to say. But please tell me, if already have majority at the Senate,
yes,
you have majority at the National Assembly, the ruling is maybe 2 or 3 weeks old. Why do you need Raila Odinga?
We don't need anybody to be left out in any government that we are running as Kenya Kwanza. That is one of the things that William Ruto told Kenyans.
Being left out.
You heard what Nyuto said? That even as William Ruto brings on board the people who supported Raila, who are probably 50% of the population of Kenya, what do we do with those who are not supporting? What I'm trying to say is, if we had everyone else on board, things would be even easier for the people of Kenya, because we will be able to tell them the truth as it is supposed to be in terms of what we are planning to do as a government, what we are doing, and the challenges that we have.
Okay.
And that conversation is missing.
All right.
And I think we owe Kenyans an explanation on so many things.
You're saying that if everyone was on one side, it would be easier to tell the truth to Kenyans?
Not necessarily one side, a focused mindset. And of course, the more you have, the merrier.
That's what you just told me.
The more the merrier, definitely. The more the merrier.
Wakili Makhanu, so are you united yourself?
No, I'm sitting here and listening to my learned friend, and I'm surprised. You know, it's very difficult to defend something which is undefendable.
Sure.
The fact of the matter is this. The reason why the president is trying so hard to look for Raila Odinga is for one reason. And I will pick it up from where my learned friend has said, that politicians are united. They're united amongst themselves to the exclusion of Kenyans. Uniting this country does not need the president looking for Raila Odinga and sitting down and trying to craft an arrangement for him to get into government. Uniting this country will be achieved if the government delivers on the manifesto that they gave Kenyans, to ensure that the cost of living comes down, to ensure that at the height of the Gen Z protest, the individuals who are allegedly abducting and kidnapping these kids are found and prosecuted in courts of law. You know, by ensuring that SHA is working and ensuring that people are getting treatment, by ensuring that the university model is working. Those are the pillars that can unite this country. But looking, staging a stand where you are looking for the prime minister, the former prime minister, and saying that we want to ensure that everybody is coming on board, that is a fallacy, because the prime minister does not represent the wishes of all Kenyans. And as rightly put by the senator, he got probably something like half of the votes. What about the other half? So even if for sure he is representing the wishes of all those who voted for him, what about those ones who did not vote for him? And what about those ones who have since changed their mind because of how he has conducted himself? So for a fact, these statements are being issued and offered for political convenience. The fact of the matter is this: the president is looking for the prime minister to avoid the moments where everything in his government is going to shut down because of lack of quorum in parliament. And most importantly, a threat to his position. That is the fact of the matter.
What threat to his position?
I mean, today, if the former Prime Minister unites with the former Deputy President, and we have seen how impeachments are being conducted in this country, it's very possible for the President to be impeached. It can be, a motion can be brought in Parliament. If they have the majority that the senator is saying, it is very easy to impeach the governor, the president. And we've seen the mood of the courts. The courts have said that you cannot stop a constitutional process. So if a bill to impeach the president comes in today, and if the courts uphold, or rather a motion comes, and if the courts uphold what they have already upheld in the Gachagua case, then that threat is imminent. And we can see why the president is behaving the way he's behaving. That is the fact of the matter.
Okay. I want us to take a short break. I'll come back with you, Honorable Kagiri, on this particular topic as we continue to look at the situation in the country politically, but also remember we'll have a conversation on the situation with the Social Health Authority at a time that the President has admitted that indeed there are challenges, but promises that it's going to work eventually. He says, believe him. We're back in a moment.
Wewe fanya hiyo consultation, direction ambayo utatupatia. Sisi unajua tunafuata maneno na spirit ya baba.
Sisi kama watu wa chama, viongozi wa chama na wanachama, lazima sasa tuwe na mpango ya kuendesha chama yetu na kuhudumisha nchi yetu.
All right, they were speaking at the ODM at 20 event in Busia County. We'll also be listening to what the former Prime Minister said in as far as what decision he and the party are going to take. Let's listen to that.
Sisi si watu wa kufuata watu hovyo hovyo. Tunafuata watu na sababu. Chama cha ODM ni chama ambayo iko na sera kamili na msimamo. Tutachukua msimamo ambayo italenga matakwa na haki ya Wakenya wote.
Matakwa ya Wakenya wote. I hope, Senator, you're thinking about that. But at the same time, there are leaders that are saying that ODM is such a big party to be swallowed by any.
Ndugu zetu wanasema wanakuamini baba Raila Amolo Odinga kwamba uamuzi ambao utachukua kwa ajili ya mustakabali wa chama hiki utakuwa ni uamuzi ambao utakuwa in the best interest of the Orange Democratic Movement and in the best interest of the people of Kenya.
We are prepared for 2027 by any means. We are prepared either by ourselves ama through coalition kuhakikisha kwamba tumechukua uongozi wa nchi. ODM must capture power in this country and it is not done until it is done.
So Mheshimiwa Jane Kagiri, so that's the party you want to unite with, right?
Some do not put words that are not in my mouth. I said I agree, yes and no. We would want them to come in to keep the government in check, and that's why I spoke about the NADCO report. You remember me mentioning about that, where we should have the office of the leader of official opposition. But anyway, Sam, before I respond...
You want them to come in to put the government in check?
Yes, or come in to work with government. Those are two options, Sam, which are rightly so, and I'll tell you why. Sam, number one, we had the Vision 2030. Vision 2030, which is now 5 years to go. In Vision 2030, we had the social, the economic, and political pillar. I believe every Kenyan who is like-minded supports the Vision 2030, including Right Honorable Raila Odinga. They also had the Azimio Manifesto. We had the Kenya Kwanza Manifesto. We have our constitution that enshrines the rights that every Kenyan has. For any right and good-willing Kenyan, you must come in together to see the success of your country. So Sam, the options are many. You could come in as a person who is going to keep the government in check to ensure it delivers on all that was that it committed to. Number two, you could come in to partner with the same government because you share the same vision. Azimio Manifesto had housing, it had social UHC. It had most of the things that the Kenya Kwanza Manifesto has. So Sam, what I'm saying is we all need to appreciate. We are Kenyans, and the success of Kenya is to each one of us. Sam, before I continue...
So which works better? Because you're given two options.
Yes.
Raila Odinga comes in as the leader of official opposition.
Yes.
Alternatively, he comes into the government. I don't hear you mentioning what position that would be. Which works better for you from Kenya Kwanza?
Some both would work.
No.
We would want to be put in check as a government.
Question. What works better?
Some, do not put me on the spot because any would work for the country.
Put you on the spot.
Do
I'm asking
not,
a question.
because
what works better?
all of them would be ideal situations. We would want the government to be put in check, as well as we would want them to come in as partners to ensure the success of the program.
What interest does it serve to appoint Raila Odinga as the leader of official opposition in the current regime?
Some. You want me to lose my thought, but let me go back to what I wanted to first state.
Please answer my question.
I will answer your question.
Kagiri, I'm asking a question.
I will answer your question, Sam, but allow me to answer it.
What does it serve to have Raila Odinga as the leader of official opposition in the current regime?
It would serve to keep the government in check and to ensure we implement all the programs that we committed to Kenyans.
You sit in parliament?
Yes, I do.
What is your work?
To legislate, to represent, and to oversight.
You've been unable to oversight the government.
I have not been unable to oversight the government, Sam, but it is, Sam, I would want to take you back to my opening remarks. We have a situation of winner takes it all. We need to know how to manage it
we'll get
as
to
a country.
It after some time.
Yes.
But tell me here, because one of your functions is to oversight the government, it's
yes,
executive in this case. You've been unable to do that you need the services of Raila Odinga.
I have not been unable to do that, Sam.
So why do you need Raila Odinga to come and do it?
Sam, I am telling you, we need to manage how our country is run and we avoid the situation of winner takes it all. So the options are two. Do you bring in number 2 into government, or do you create an office for the number 2 person for the people he represents or the people who supported him to feel that they are part of this government or part of the country?
Why would you bring him into government?
I've told you, Sam, and you just want me to keep repeating the same thing. We share the same vision. Our manifestos read the same thing. So
then why not resign, go to election, and have him elected?
Sam, we were elected.
Isn't that how democracy works?
That's how democracy works, Sam. But I'm telling you, as a country, which is cheaper for us, to work together or to go back to an election. Already IEBC last week declared that we require 61 billion for the 2027 election.
Right.
You and I know our country is not doing well economically. So would we be going back to a ballot? Or
so should we see the same?
Yeah.
Who came after you in the election in Laikipia?
A lady called, she was number 2.
Do you want to share power with her?
I will not share power with her, but nothing stops me from visiting her and telling her, what do you think I can do better in regards to the vision you had for the people of Laikipia County? Nothing stops me.
Who's your governor in Laikipia, Mheshimiwa?
He's called Joshua Rongo.
Number 2 was?
Number 2 was Derito Mureithi, I presume.
Do you want him to come and work with the current governor in some arrangement, political arrangement?
Again, I repeat, nothing stops His Excellency Joshua Rongo from visiting Derito Mureithi and asking him, what do you think I need to do better for the interest of the people like Laikipia County?
You are creating a position to incorporate him, to push the country forward.
Sam, and that's why I took you through. Remember, the NADCO report is a report that has involved all Kenyans for it to get to the point it is at in Parliament.
It's not the Constitution.
So it is something that is going to amend the Constitution, Sam. So what I'm saying is it is input from Kenyans for us to get to where we are.
When is the amendment taking place to the Constitution?
We should start debating this week, the NADCO report. And by the way, we've already gone into Agenda 1, which is elections. And I believe you've already seen the IEBC panel was established. And now we are about to go into the vetting process of who is going to hold office in IEBC.
But does not amend the Constitution, Mheshimiwa.
I have told you we are starting the process. The process. The process starts in Parliament.
A Constitution is amended through an amendment bill.
That's what I'm saying. That is what we are going to start by debating.
Debate what?
The NADCO report. And I believe it had 5 agendas.
That does not amend the Constitution. It is a bill to amend the Constitution that does, isn't it?
Sam, this is all semantics, and I'm trying to explain to you.
Okay, I don't know. I am not an advocate. I have 2 here.
So, anyway, Sam.
Senator Sigei, just a moment. Just tell me, how do you amend a Constitution, and will NADCO report amend the Constitution?
I wanted to share with you a draft document. What has happened, Sam? And I would really be very happy for us to have a very intentional conversation, not a back and forth engagement as to what could be, sounding the kind of story which I earlier on said.
Yep.
What NADCO did, remember NADCO began first of all as when the Kenyans went to the streets, actually Azimio team went to the streets and complained about the cost of living and all those complaints they had then, right? Yeah. What did the president do and Raila? They sat back and said, look, we need to start up. We started with a bipartisan, where I sat as a member, by the way. Shortly thereafter, it truncated into now the NADCO committee, that is the National Dialogue. That National Dialogue group had engagements with Kenyans, leading to the report now, which the Honorable Jane Kagiri is saying they'll be debating in due course. We have done several sessions as joint committees of the National Assembly and the Senate in JLAC, where a number of those issues have been picked, including the proposals that were made by NADCO, courtesy of involvement of Kenyans in the course of their public participation. Remember, they did this in Bomas of Kenya.
But does that report amend the Constitution?
Invited. Now, I'm headed there, and that is why it's normally good to allow people to run through, set the foundation for the Kenyans whom we are talking to understand. Because I cannot tell them, for instance, part of what NADCO says, you need to create the position of a leader of a opposition, and you also need to create the position of a prime minister. On what basis do we do that? What does it require? For instance, that will mean we go to a referendum. Part of the recommendation of NADCO and Kenyans was that we are not ready to go for a referendum, right? And it is now a subject of that report that has already been tabled in both houses, the National Assembly and the Senate. Because members of parliament are representatives of the people, people spoke through various stakeholders to the NADCO committee.
That's what I'm asking you.
We will get to a level where some allow this to run. Don't distort my thoughts, because I wanted to read to you.
But I want us to summarize it.
I wanted to read to you a constitutional amendment document, which is a product of, I'm trying to trace it here, which is a product of that NADCO. And I'm saying, you see some...
Is a constitutional amendment bill or what?
No. It will assist you, Sam, as he looks for the document.
Let me just...
The NADCO report.
No, Sam, I was speaking.
No, I'll get back to you, Mheshimiwa.
So I was saying, this is actually a document that has been signed by Honorable Chepkonga from the National Assembly, and I have also equally signed. I'll describe it. Yes. What I'm trying to say is, NADCO report does not, as a report, amend the Constitution. It gave recommendations, several of them. Among the ones that does not require a referendum, for example, is the subject of GAF, national, the CDF, first of all, and GAF,
but specific
which are
what
not
she's proposing?
In the Constitution. As regards the position of the leader of opposition, remember that will change the structure of the executive. It will require a referendum. Remember the question you had asked me when we started about the headline in the Standard.
Is there a bill currently?
No, it's not there.
Okay. I'll get back to you. Senator...
Sam, I was speaking.
Yes, you were. It's a discussion. I'll get back to you.
Allow me to complete my thoughts.
Okay,
You interrupt.
What did you want to say?
Sam, I needed to respond to Senator Nyotu. There's a point where he said that you asked me a question which I didn't answer, and it's good to brief him that all my senses are right. My hearing sense is okay. And you did not ask me about the early campaigns. What you asked me was about the headline. But because that thought was brought up, allow me to respond. Allow me to respond and state this. Sam, I'm beginning to feel like the discomfort on the president going out there is because now the misinformation is beginning to be reversed. I'll give you a very good example when the president did the North. What
do you mean? Misinformation being...
There has been a lot of misinformation being thrown around in this country. And now the president has gone out there to inform Kenyans on what he's actually doing. I'll give you a good example. Like now we've all spoken about, and we've spoken largely about Right Honorable Raila Odinga. But how many times are we forgetting to mention that even His Excellency Uhuru Kenyatta was consulted? And that's how we got C.S. Lee Kinyanjui into government, and we also got Mutahi Kagwe into government. Let's also remember Tubebe Party was an affiliate of Kenya Kwanza.
Did you create a position for Uhuru Kenyatta?
That is how, again, we've gotten William Kabogo to become one of the CSs in our government. No, Sam, it's not about creating positions. It is about bringing the country together. And that said, when I hear people saying that there are early campaigns taking place, I believe that discomfort is coming out because they now know information is going to be passed rightfully to the people. And I'll give you a good example. When the president went to Northeastern, he mentioned a certain road where he spoke of Mogadashe, Tarbaj, and what. Of course, it is what is trending on TikTok. Today, I believe Senator Nyoto and his brigade would not want that to happen, because now Kenyans are getting informed that there are areas in this country where development was a fallacy. In fact, if anything, Sam, I'm inviting the president to Laikipia County to come and talk about...
What do you mean development is a fallacy?
Of course, there are areas in this country where people say, Karibu Kenya, when they get to Nairobi, because in their areas, development has not been there.
The road that the president mentioned, now that you bring it on the table, you know it, right?
I knew it from his speech. I didn't know about it.
You didn't know it existed?
Yeah, so no, at least I have known. People in Northeastern have
You know when its construction started?
Some I do not know. But what I want to state is,
How come you don't know?
Because I am not from that area, Sam. But what I would want to state today here this morning,
why would you blame Kenyans if they don't know?
That is why we need, Sam, that is why we need to appreciate the efforts of the president, that he's now bringing us all together to become one country and to understand the challenges of Northeastern.
Why would you question Kenyans for not knowing that such a road existed? And that's your statement, by the way. It's not like it's a fact.
Sam,
yet you yourself, you've admitted you don't know.
I am appreciating that the president has brought us all to speed. Me, Jane Kagiri, who didn't know about that road, somebody in Laikipia who didn't know about that road, now know about that road today. And what I would want to say is, as much as people are saying the president should stop moving around, personally, as Jane Kagiri, I'm inviting him to Laikipia to come and outline our road called the Nanyuki, Juakali, Naibo, Kimugandora, Doldo Road. The minute he does that, our road will be built. He comes again and outlines the Nanyuki and then Nangarejiro checkpoint, Rumuruti Road. That way my people will have a road. So for me, I would have no problem. I would have no problem, Sam, with the president coming to my county to ensure that development takes place.
You're saying...
Number two, Sam.
Mheshimiwa Kagiri, you're saying, and I need to listen to Senator Nyoto, you're saying that if the president comes and lists that road, it's going to be constructed.
Sam, I am not talking about that. You've asked me a question about the early campaigns. So I have no problem. What is being called early campaigns by Senator Nyoto and his battalion is what I am calling a welcome to the president to Laikipia County to understand the challenges of my people. And I'm sure with that, development is going to come.
If the president comes and lists that road you just mentioned in your county, it is going to be built.
Sam, it is always better when you come and see a problem because you're able to visualize it and understand the challenges of the people.
Said,
that is what I'm telling you, and I'm repeating again.
You just said that if the president comes and lists that road, it's going to be constructed.
Sam, do you know why there is something called lobbying in government? Because there is... Sam, please allow me to speak. I think you're allowing everybody else to complete their thoughts. Allow me to also complete.
Do you believe in what you just said?
Sam, what I'm telling you, there's something called lobbying in government. Resources are not enough for everybody. So sometimes when a leader visits your area and visualizes the level of challenge for your people, that makes it easier for that issue to be made a priority. And that is why I'm telling you, I would invite the president any day to visit my county to see our challenges, and maybe they will run up the priority list for my people to be served.
Okay.
But Sam, as I conclude, I would want to say there's something I disagree with Wakili here, which he said that the president is bringing Right Honorable Raila Odinga on board because of fear of impeachment or running the government. The wise man said, when you keep doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results, then that is, you know what the wise man said. Anyway, Sam, I want to remind you, the day before yesterday on the headlines, we had a picture of His Excellency, the late Moi Kibaki, shaking hands with the Right Honorable Raila Odinga. There was another photo of Uhuru Kenyatta, His Excellency Uhuru Kenyatta doing the same. And now we are having a photo on today's headline, His Excellency William Ruto shaking hands with Right Honorable Raila Odinga. That should tell us that is a trend that we need to ask ourselves a question. Are we going to change it? And to Akili, I would ask, was the late His Excellency Kibaki shaking hands with Right Honorable Raila Odinga because he was afraid of impeachment? I believe the answer is no. It is for the progress of this country. Was His Excellency Uhuru Kenyatta shaking hands for fear of impeachment? The answer is no. It was for the progress of this country. Finally, Sam, I would want to state something Senator Nyoto said, that why we are bringing the country together is because of the politics going around. But I would want to remind him, recently I took a taxi from the airport, and as I was driving, this taxi driver told me we have to enter the petrol station because I need to fuel. He needed to fuel his car. And as he was fueling, he told me, please give me money to fuel the car. Then I asked him, is business this bad? So he tells me, Mama, let me tell you, a few years ago, we could actually fuel our taxis the night before, ready for business the following day. But he told me the uncertainties that we are causing in our country are what are making tourists no longer want to be here. And let us not forget, tourism is the highest employer in this country. Remember, by the time a tourist is landing in Kenya, we already have 30% of their ticket. Some, I have told you, anytime we, like now we can give an example of the year 2024, when we had the Gen Z issue. For the remaining part of the year, we should ask our travel companies how many cancellations they had. There were many. All right, so some, when we come in as a government and try to settle the country, it is for bigger issues than this, that we want the economy to get back to where it is.
And I hope you realize that I've actually given you time to...
Thank you, Sam. This is International Women's Week, so please keep doing that for women.
Oh, thank you. Goodness, did you just go there?
And you need to also change the panel this week. Let the women be more than the men.
Oh.
Some, I think, have really waited.
That needs to ensure that the two-thirds gender rule is passed in Parliament.
It is in the NADCO report. Finally, supporters on one thing. NADCO report, two-thirds gender.
Yeah, surely.
The NADCO report.
Wakili, let's hear from Senator Nyoto, and specifically on... Because people will accuse you that you went around this country, convinced Kenyans to vote for the current regime that you do not agree with. Here you are, you're telling them as much that you're... And I heard the voices from that event that you attended with the former Deputy President yesterday, that your first agenda, as per the former Deputy President, is to get William Ruto out. So how does that help the country?
Thank you, Sam. But just so that I may not be disadvantaged, allow me also to comment about these unity calls.
Okay.
Because that is what my colleagues have addressed all this time, and I've really been patient, and I do not interject when people are talking. So kindly, Sam, about this, you asked Senator Sigei, mnaunganisha nani? And then I watched him go around in circles, because of course he didn't have that answer. Sam, you do not break your house and purport to be uniting the neighbor's house. Some, I mean, when the president talks about unity, and Wakili captured it very well, the president is not interested in any unity in this country. The president actually is not even interested in Raila Odinga and his followers and his supporters. The president is interested in his own survival. And that is what he's calling unity talks. And the president, and I told you.
What survival?
I mean, as president, survival in the office. And Wakili put it very well. Without Raila Odinga today, Sam, the president would be impeached. And that is something that he did not foresee when he made impeachment of a member of the presidency so easy. So, I mean, people now know, Kenyans now know, you can impeach the president, you can impeach the deputy president. Of course, it is there in the Constitution, but it is something that had not been done before, and so we have a precedent. That is what they call it in law. And so the president knows very well, and that is why in my submission, I said that we should start thinking of the chunk, a very big chunk, of the people or of the vote that supported the president and that does not support him now. So the president knows that if he does not opt Raila Amolo Odinga, then he's minced meat, and that is a fact. And so, Sam, the president is talking about this unity because he has disunited or broken the unity that was in his camp. And so people can keep going around in circles. I know I have heard my colleague again, Jen Kagiri here, trying to belabor on, we want to bring on board Raila Odinga to help check the government. We want to bring on board Raila Odinga because our manifestos are the same. I mean, these are just cosmetic arguments. The thing is, this unity is nothing but something aimed at making sure President Ruto at least survives for the balance of his term. Because, of course, I'm coming to my question. And kindly also, Sam, allow me some latitude.
I just wanted you to listen to the former Deputy President yesterday in an event that you also attended, so that we can get closer to the question. Hear him.
Ati hatuna mpango, tuko na mpango. Lakini mpango ile tupepewa na Wakenya, kwanza the most urgent ni kutoa wewe. And when you call us conmen, Mr. President, take a mirror first, uangalie wewe mwenyewe, ujiangalie kwa kioo, ukiita sisi conmen. The people of this country know who is a conman in this Kenya. Plan A ni kutoa wewe. Plan B is to restore the payslip, is to end corruption, is to end extrajudicial killing, is to end abduction, is to restore our dignity in the foreign service. So wewe usijali, we'll talk about you mpaka tukutoe. So wewe zoea. So we have many plans, Mr. President, but removing you is a prerequisite of us implementing our plans.
So acknowledging the challenges that exist in the country, Senator.
Yes.
Removing the president, how does that help Kenyans?
I think it's important for all of us to always analyze the context in which a statement was made. And I think I was in that meeting, as you have rightly put it. And the second deputy president put it very well. He said, Kenyans are ailing. I mean, the health sector is ailing because of this, this share shift thing, and it is your, I mean, it's your brainchild. We cannot be able to fix that, and we need to fix it very urgently with you in office. Then he said, we have abductions happening and killings of young people. We cannot be able to stop that when you are in office.
Why?
How do you, who owns a manifesto? Is the president, the ruling, the manifesto that is working in Kenya.
You said you cannot stop the killings and abductions with President Ruto in office.
Yes.
Is that in the manifesto?
No, Sam, the deputy president, the second deputy president was responding to the president's statement somewhere in the coast, where he said that that side that is criticizing him does not have a plan. So if you...
and I get that.
Yes.
That's politics.
Yes.
Can we have a discussion here?
Yes.
So the question I'm asking you, because you're saying that all these challenges is not possible to resolve with President Ruto in office.
Yes.
And particularly you've said you cannot stop the abductions and the killings with William Ruto in office. Yes. And I'm asking you why and how so?
Yes, because you can only talk about it. Who owns the instruments of power? How do you stop abductions without the instruments of power? Sam. The President Ruto is the one that owns.
Are you saying that he's the one who is doing the abductions?
No, I'm not saying he's the one who is doing abductions. But of course, everybody knows that if the police have not been able to arrest abductors, then it means that the police are the ones doing it. Because if it was going to be somebody else, some criminal somewhere.
Have you tried to resolve this at the Senate?
Sorry?
Have you tried to resolve this through the Senate?
Of course, this is something that we have talked about, and I think even there is a senator who even brought a statement about it, to be specific. Nominated Senator S.E. Okenyuri. And I remember how, the government side was uncomfortable with her raising that particular statement while she's on government side. So Sam, what the second deputy...
So how will the alternative fix this?
The alternative, of course, it's goodwill, Sam. It's that commitment to the good and the will of Kenyans. The instruments are there. The structures are there.
The question I'm asking is, the alternative in this case, what Rigathi Gachagua is talking about, how does that resolve it? Remember, he was a deputy president.
Yes, he was. Yes, he was.
So how will he fix it if he didn't while he was in office?
But how do you fix something when you don't have the power to, Sam?
What do you mean? He was deputy president, wasn't he?
He was deputy president, and when he attempted to think that he can sort out any problem, he had to be removed. That is why the current occupant,
So by removing William Ruto, how will he fix it?
He will fix it, of course, because you see, Sam, the goodwill of the president is everything.
Sorry. By removing William Ruto from the presidency,
yes.
How will Rigathi Gachagua fix it?
He will fix it, and I think it's also a good question to maybe look for some to ask him. But depending on the
But you know so much.
Yes, yeah. Depending on his statement yesterday. How do you sort out the problems that Kenyans have? Some you sort them out by exercising the power and authority that you have. That is why when you are seated there as Sam, you can only control this panel, report to us. You cannot go and fix the problem with the police because you do not have that mandate. You do not have that power.
So
the mandate...
How will Rigathi Gachagua fix it?
Rigathi Gachagua will fix it through a manifesto that he'll be true to. Because we are talking about... Some, you are not giving me time.
No, I mean, this is
how he's going to fix it. Why do you ask how he's going to fix it? I mean,
because he will.
Because every time anybody aspires and campaigns for a political seat, they aspire to do that in order for them.
Rigathi Gachagua will run for presidency.
Why don't you allow me to answer the questions that you have asked? Then you ask the subsequent questions.
Waiting for your answer.
Yes. So I'm telling you, anybody that runs for political office, they run for political office because they want to get the mandate to be able to implement their manifesto.
That's what.
So when you do not have the mandate, you cannot implement the manifesto. So President Ruto and his government has introduced SHA because he is the one with the mandate. He has introduced, through his government, remember this is his government, he has introduced a new funding model because he's the one with the mandate. So when you ask how somebody who does not have the mandate will fix it, then that particular person will tell you, I can only first get the mandate and then I give you my manifesto. So when you ask how removing President Ruto from office will sort out the problems that Kenyans have, then it is just like asking all of us, when we campaigned and you wanted to remove whoever was sitting in that office, I mean, you wanted to remove them because you thought you had a better manifesto than they had so that you get the mandate. But kindly allow me also to, give me some latitude because,
no, carry on.
Yes.
You have the
so
why are you complaining?
When I'm not complaining. Yeah. So when Honorable Jean Kagiri says that I'm the one that has introduced the matter of early campaigns, and she says that her senses are working well, and I do not have any reason to think otherwise. But this is a matter that arose from the statement by the bishop. It's the bishops that raised the issue of early campaigns, no, Senator Nyoto.
Okay. Thank you, Senator. Let's take a look at the feedback that has come to us at Citizen TV.
And please allow me to finish my thoughts when you come back.
You may. J.M. Musoma is saying that when Raila joins government, we are told it is in the best interest of Kenya. Our constitution doesn't envision a situation where we don't have a majority and minority. Azimio lost the day Kenya Kwanza was announced winner, so let's not break the law in pursuit of politics. Bobo Otieno is saying that listening to Raila Odinga, I think their political marriage ya kuungana, like President Ruto says, is on a rocky state, and it will be the tallest order for it to survive because they don't trust each other. Dei Kobaye, you're saying the only way of uniting Kenyans is by implementing whatever the current government promised Kenyans during campaigns. Let them fix SHA, university funding model, lower the cost of living, and improve infrastructure in all parts of the country. Frank Orinde, you're saying the broad-based government is about political survival, while leaders claim inclusivity strengthens governance. Our situation is to weaken opposition. With rising taxes, unemployment, and high cost of living, focus should be on service delivery and not political realignment. Lilian Siyo, you're saying that when you talk of unity with a purpose, President Ruto and Raila have shown us exactly that. The broad-based government is a testimony of leaders putting aside their differences and forging forward for the interest of the citizenry. And Sir Nixon Duguri is saying that, by the way, Madam Jean Kagiri, in your opinion, does the broad-based government embrace the active participation of women with intent to promote freedom and equal rights for women, for instance, getting women into the executive circle? That's a question.